Very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for joining us here on The Big Story. I'm Afrida Rahman Ali. The big update at this hour and our top focus on The Big Story is the issue of the Data Protection Bill. The Joint Committee of Parliament examining the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019 has adopted its report on the bill with 7 opposition MPs, including those from Congress, TMC and BJD, submitting dissent notes on it. The report was adopted after almost 2 years of setting up of a joint panel when the bill was referred to it for further scrutiny and making recommendations. The bill aims to regulate personal data processing. Opposition members, however, said that according to them, the proposed law will give unbridled powers to government agencies. So that's our top focus at this hour, and there are some important and, of course, highly significant questions to raise on the issue of privacy, on the issue of data privacy in particular. Let's welcome our guest this afternoon joining us here on The Big Story, Dr. Anshul Avijit, National Spokesperson of the Congress Party, and also Dr. Pavan Duggal, who is a cyber law expert. So first, to put things in context for us, what the objections are to this draft, to this proposed bill, I would like to bring in Anshul first, because Congress is one of those parties that have now submitted dissent notes to this draft bill. Anshul, take us through the major points that your party is raising on this. I do understand this is in the interest of people's privacy, but what are your main bones of contention?
Well, Clause 35, just to start off immediately, I mean, it gives a blanket a carte blanche almost, sweeping and unbridled power to the central government to do whatever they want with data privacy. They've always used, the problem is, you have seen this debate going on for a couple of years now. They've always used this excuse of, say, national security, of sovereignty of the country, of public order, to get away with doing whatever they want and embolden themselves and use their heft and executive power to get after citizens. It is also, as Manish Tiwari put it, creates two different kind of universes in which different laws are applied to the government agencies. They can almost get away with everything, and the privacy of individuals is severely compromised. That is the first and foremost thing. I mean, we've had this debate as far as Twitter is concerned, as far as Facebook is concerned, as far as end-to-end encryptions in WhatsApp is concerned. Clause 79, when the Twitter debates came up, was extremely objectionable and doing away with those kind of, safe harbor and immunity that provided. I mean, all these things are constantly in debate. Yet again, they have used their muscle. They are trying to weaponize their agency to get after individual citizens. They've done it with their laws, Afrida. They've done it with 124A. They've done it with UAPA. They've done it with National Security Act. Every single time they use them to get after the citizens. That is the major objection here.
Okay, so this is a law that is in a way designed to get after the citizens, to intrude into their privacy. Pavan Duggal, your views on this, do you think the opposition has a point in this? Do you think that these concerns are valid when it comes to protecting individual privacy?
There is no doubt that the concerns that are being raised are valid and are in accordance with the provisions of the law. The fact remains is that this particular bill in the current form has been now adopted by the Joint Parliamentary Committee, and they're actually following a particular trend. In my recent book entitled New Cyber World Order Post-COVID-19, I've argued how states will become extremely powerful using COVID-19 as a mechanism by coming up with various legislative instruments. So this instrument also is a manifestation of the trend that there is increasing consolidation of power in the hand of the government. Now, what is so special with the government that it should not be subject to the law of the land? What is so special that it should not be subject to certain stringent provisions for processing of personal data, which other entities in the country are entitled to? That's one of the fundamental issues, because this particular exemption clause is so vast, so huge, that everything and anything under the sun could come within the ambit of this. And effectively, this could lead to negation of the very kind of protection that you are aiming to give to the ultimate data holders. Please, let's realize that we are in a data economy. And in this data economy, it's important that the data of every stakeholder, not necessarily only individuals, but also organizations and governments, need to be protected. It also needs to be noted that this particular PDP bill is only for personal data. It's not dealing with non-personal data protection at all. So I think it's passed in a great amount of hurry, this particular report, and now it's before Parliament. Very quickly, India has to realize it has a choice. It can either legislate in a great amount of hurry and repent at leisure, or it can actually learn from the experiences of other countries and come up with a more customized approach that will be workable in the Indian context. This giving of immense powers to the government runs contra now to the established principles of law.
Okay.
Of course, it's now going to lead to far more litigation, because every time there's going to be misuse or an abuse or a contravention happening, there'll be far more litigation. My scenario
So what
is,
you're saying, okay, Dr. Tuggal, is, and if I understand you correctly, that, you know, the problem is with giving the government the exemptions. So far as the other entities are concerned, are you satisfied with the kind of protection? Because, you know, from what we understand, again, this was meant to protect data. This was actually meant to be safeguards, to actually institute safeguards for people's privacy. And from the opinions that I'm getting so far, it seems it's doing just the opposite. It defeats the purpose. But are you only concerned with the government exemption part of it? Are the rest of it all okay, Dr. Duggal?
not at all. Please understand, this is one of the towering cherries on the cake. There are a lot of other problems which are currently existing in the current bill. Not yet seen the final report, but the entire issue of data localization is a very important issue that India needs to apply its mind to, because the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019 is effectively doing a U-turn on the stand on data localization of what had been taken by the Reserve Bank of India. You have to quickly realize that along with data protection is intrinsically connected the issue of the cyber sovereignty of the country. How are you going to go ahead and protect that? That's something that's not yet clear. How are you and your law going to go ahead and weigh in the context of the global standards on data protection as are envisaged in the General Data Protection Regulation? Those are very important questions, but I think I'll have to wait for reading the exact report of the Joint Parliamentary Committee before comments further in this regard.
Yes, Anshul, to this extent, you would concede that a data protection law is imperative. It's much delayed, actually. All this while, we are subjected to data mining. We don't know who, why, where is using our data that is in the social media. Finally, there is some movement in this direction. A data protection law is shaping up. Do you think that rather than creating any further hurdles or delays, the opposition should come together with the government at an hour like this to make it happen? Set the data protection law, let it get cast in stone, because there's already much delay. The other countries are ahead of us in this, and people are already suffering because of the privacy intrusion. Now with this nitpicking, if I may, do you think the process will only get further delayed? Does that help, Anshul?
It's not nitpicking, Afrida. I mean, this is a move, certainly, but it's a move in the wrong direction. What it does is emboldens the government. That's all what it wants to do. So in the name of data protection of private citizens, actually what it's doing is increasing the power, the executive power of the central government. Look, Afrida, I'll tell you the background. For the last couple of years, the government has been trying to sweep into, trying to control the population, so to speak. You know, it's been trying to do it with laws. It's trying to weaponize laws. It's trying to do it with the agencies. It's trying to do it by emasculating slowly the bureaucracy. You can see the executive power of the government increasing slowly. And this has been audited by the Supreme Court itself. The Supreme Court in the last couple of months has taken deep concerns about this, whether it's regarding any situation, whether it's regarding the vaccine situation in this country, the fight against, this terrible disease, or its privacy laws. Now, data and cyber internet was one last frontier in which there was complete mayhem and lawlessness. The government had no control over it. So what you saw at the beginning of the year was tampering with the IT laws, and now finally this. It wants to gain control in a very surveillance, police surveillance type of way over this entire country. We are completely becoming Orwellian.
Okay, so I take your point there, and a lot of people perhaps would agree that Section 35 remains problematic because it gives the government certain exemptions. It gives the agencies, the central agencies and other investigative agencies, overruling powers when it comes to accessing personal data as well. And that, like we just heard the Congress spokesperson say, is a problem at the moment. That is an intrusion to privacy. So if this bill is about protecting data, protecting individual privacy, somewhere it's not falling in line. I would have to leave it at that. Dr. Pavan Duggal and Anshul Avijit, thanks for joining us. Let's take a quick break here. News and updates continue on the other side. Do stay with us.